Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Villa Varykino YouTube channel. I'm Kristy.
And I'm Matt.
We're long-standing Star Wars fans who live and breathe Star Wars every day.
Welcome to another installment of Our Week of Star Wars, a series recapping the Star Wars fun we've had during the past week. First up, we're really excited to see The Acolyte on Disney+. That's going to be screening this afternoon New Zealand time, and we'll be talking about that in upcoming episodes of Our Week of Star Wars. In preparation for that, we did rewatch the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. We just finished that rewatch very recently. We binged it over a couple of nights, which was a really, really good way to do that. We've said this before in terms of the Book of Boba Fett. The Disney Plus series tend to have quite variable pacing, and that's important. That works really well in terms of storytelling, but it comes across a whole lot better if you watch a few episodes together in a block, so you get that balance, that ebb and flow of pacing and action. And we really enjoyed the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on that basis. There's some real highlights. I love every scene that has Hayden Christensen and Darth Vader in it, of course, but there's a number of really good highlights in that series.
It has been a little while since we first watched the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, so it was really fun to go back and really refresh our memory on all of those high points, all of the details that might have slipped our notice. Certainly by the time we get to the end of the series, rewatching things, you notice things that you didn't necessarily pick up on the first time that were important, but because you didn't know how the whole story was going to play out, you didn't notice them the first time. So I find I pick up a lot more on rewatching. So I can't wait to go back and watch this again in the future. I might even pick up on more sort of nuances again in the future.
Yeah, and just to hit on a couple of other notes, I really loved some of the actors in that series. Well, I loved all the actors, frankly, but, great to see Hayden Christensen again. I loved Joel Edgerton returning as Owen. Every scene that he's in is just really tells a story in his own right. The way he interacts with both young Luke and Obi-Wan really fits in with the rest of his story. Great to see Simone Kessel, a Kiwi actor, taking on a very important role in the Star Wars lore.
Yes, and this was one of the Disney Plus series that really connects so very strongly to existing Star Wars content in terms of the prequels and having to sort of match up and fitting in between what we know happens. It was very tightly constrained compared to, say, something like The Mandalorian that has free reign. We don't know where these characters are going to end up ultimately. So it was really interesting to sort of see just how sort of nuanced everything is to make sure that it doesn't conflict with what we already know in terms of the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. So I really do appreciate the carefulness that they applied here, and I really did enjoy watching it again in a condensed fashion over a couple of nights.
Yeah, so if you only watched that once in an episodic manner when it first came out, do consider watching it by binging it. It's a great way to do it. The other highlight of our past week was the Retro Event Volume 3. This was a retro-themed collectible event held in our hometown of Auckland, New Zealand. A large swap meet type event focusing on collectibles from all sorts of genres and franchises, but with a good deal of Star Wars representation.
As passionate Star Wars collectors, the two of us have been to a lot of collector swap meets over the years. They were generally fairly small, held at local community halls. This one blew us away. It was so big. It was held at a stadium with just a huge variety of all sorts of retro goodies like Atari consoles, all sorts of collectibles from all sorts of franchises. It was really fun just to see how many people. We turned up before it opened and there was already a massive queue awaiting to get in. So we knew there was going to be some good stuff to browse through once the doors opened.
So there were vendors covering all sorts of franchises and types of products, ranging from the 80s, 90s to the early 2000s in particular. We had books, action figures in terms of Star Wars material, Black Series, vintage action figures, early Episode 1 action figures.
There was Lego, there were video games, there were DVDs, there was just anything and everything.
All sorts of miscellaneous pieces, yeah.
It was really hard to decide what we were going to pick up at this event. Of course we went with our wallet ready, but it was really fun sifting through everything, bustling shoulder to shoulder with fellow collectors, trying to find the good stuff, the real highlights. It was really tempting to just basically grab everything Star Wars that we saw. Of course, as the collectors, we really do want to add more and sort of rescue old secondhand pieces, those interesting pieces. There were vintage comics that I was sorely tempted to pick up, all sorts of really cool video games. It was just amazing. We had so much fun.
The event overall was very, very well received. The type of people that were coming into this were clearly a slightly older generation who remember the 80s, 90s and early 2000s with nostalgia. They were bringing along their kids in order to introduce them to the sort of toys and collectibles that they grew up with. And yeah, everyone was really enjoying it, and it felt really positive, both in terms of what was being sold and what was being bought, and there was a lot of product changing hand.
Of course, as well as Star Wars, there was also a few cool retro cars on display. There were fans in costume as well. It just had such an awesome vibe. Of course, they had retro music playing as well for fans to really get in the mood. It was really fun to see so many fans coming together, celebrating their associated fandoms from years gone by. And really, we saw people carrying huge big bags and armfuls of goodies that they just couldn't help but pick up to add to their collections. And of course, you know, we did come home with a few pieces ourselves. Which of course leads us into our purchases for the week. We came away from the retro event with 4 items. We really tried to contain ourselves here. I found 2 episode 1 carded figures of Queen Amidala. I own almost all of these figures from back in the day, but I don't have as many carded examples from that iconic Phantom Menace range as I would like. So I took the opportunity to pick up 2 carded Queen Amidala figures. The one from Naboo with blaster pistols, and of course Queen Amidala in her iconic Senate gown as she wears on Coruscant. Really happy to have these 2 in my collection.
So they were in really good condition, and we're going to keep those examples on their card backs. We picked up a couple of Black Series Clone Trooper figures that we're going to be opening on our channel very soon. We're excited to get 2 Clone Troopers specifically, an archive carded 501st Legion Clone Trooper and an archive carded Clone Commander Cody figure.
These are always really hard to find locally on store shelves. Things like Stormtroopers and Clone Troopers always sell well because, of course, fans want to army build them. So we're very happy to pick these up at a great price from this event.
Now, June the 1st saw the release of a new wave of LEGO Star Wars products. We grabbed hold of the Captain Rex Y-Wing Microfighter.
This was just a fun little build, but of course the highlight of this is the Captain Rex minifigure. Always fun to add a popular character to our LEGO minifigure collection. In other shopping news, it was exciting for fans of the vintage collection here in New Zealand as a very limited case lot of the new wave arrived here in New Zealand. We managed to grab 2 in person. We picked up Professor Hu Yang VC311 and the new Darth Vader VC334. We also picked up the Stormtrooper, but that one we had to wait a little bit longer for it to arrive in the mail. That one is VC231. Always happy to add Stormtroopers to our collection. And while we were there, we also ordered the Boba Fett Morak. This one didn't show up locally at store shelves, only a couple of online retailers, so we decided to finally pick this one up. This one was VC252. Really fun to add 4 new TVC figures to our collection this week.
It was also a good week for Funko Pop vinyl acquisitions. We got a 2-pack featuring Darth Maul and Gar Saxon. We got this on a great clearance deal down from $54 to $9.
I also picked up the Funko Ahsoka Tano 268. This is a diamond collection version of Ahsoka in the Clone Wars, where she is covered in glitter. I thought this one was so pretty, so of course I had to pick this one up. And I did pick up a second Ahsoka Tano Funko this week, also on clearance. I finally grabbed the Ahsoka Tano in Delta 7 Jedi Starfighter on clearance. This was a bigger one, so they cost a little bit more here in New Zealand. I was very happy to grab that one on clearance as well. And it seems it was a good week for Ahsoka Tano items on clearance because lastly, I picked up the Hasbro Galactic Action Electronic Ahsoka Tano figure that was originally retailing for $70 here in New Zealand. I picked it up on sale for $40. This one did not hit major retailers. There was only a small handful of stockers that had it. So I decided I wanted to add it to my Ahsoka Tano collection and for a great price.
In terms of YouTube videos that we've recorded and uploaded to our channel, we opened a couple of the vintage collection figures that we just mentioned having received in the past week. We're very excited to get Professor Hu Yang out of his packaging and see him in person. So this is obviously from the Ahsoka live action series. Great to have this character represented in our collection. And the vintage collection Darth Vader 334 is a brand new version of Darth Vader from A New Hope with some new chest piece sculpting that accurately represents his costume as seen in A New Hope.
Continuing on our Bad Batch celebration series, I opened up the Black Series Wrecker from Season 1 in his original Clone Force 99 armor. I also built the LEGO Star Wars Captain Rex Y-Wing Microfighter. That one was such a fun and quick build. Of course, I had to get stuck into that the day that I got it home from the store. I also opened up the Funko Diamond Collection Ahsoka Tano pop vinyl figure. I really wanted to see that one out of the packaging and compare it to the original version of that figure. I thought it was really fun to see those two side by side.
Yes, you need to see that glitter finish and the lights out of the packaging to really get the full effect. We opened up another Hot Wheels Starship Select vehicle, Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor. This is a slightly older release, but we took the opportunity to compare it to the prototype version of Obi-Wan's Jedi Interceptor, which we more recently got our hands on.
And lastly, I opened up the Epic Hero Series Ahsoka Tano 4-inch figure and compared it to a couple of other Ahsoka action figures. Really interesting to see how the new Epic Hero Series line compares to other action figures. I think this one is a great one for collectors on a budget and for younger fans, of course.
On that note, thanks for listening to another episode of Our Week of Star Wars. We appreciate you taking your time to listen to us.
And stay tuned for another episode next week. And as always, may the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.